And hello everybody, welcome back again to a Monday here on the old Triple T show. It's a work in progress in here. I'm starting construction on my set and I just forgot to turn a light on. Bear with me here. There we go, maybe that'll help a little bit. All weekend, it's Monday now, all weekend I have been really mulling over this situation in Southern California with the fires. This is a tragedy. I don't have the latest numbers in front of me, but I mean there are tens of thousands of properties have been destroyed, tens of thousands of acres. People have lost their lives. It's just absolute devastation in Southern California, and I've been thinking about the causes of this. I talked about that in previous videos. Why this happened, how it started. Was it an act of nature, an act of God? Was it intentionally set, or was it just basic mismanagement by the local governments there? Or is there something, folks, more sinister afoot? And I really don't know, but I think we've got to start asking some hard questions here. I've got many more questions than I have answers. But I believe it's appropriate that we just start asking questions. I think there's nothing wrong with that. We need to ask why this happened, and I believe we also need to start considering whether or not there's anything intentional about this. Now, when it comes to these leftist politicians that lord over the state of California, I put nothing past these people. So many of them are not only incompetent, they're just pure evil. You take a guy like Adam Pencilneck Schiff, the newly elected senator from California, who was completely behind the phony Russian dossier. He promoted this all the time in the Senate. He had hearings trying to railroad Donald Trump and get him impeached. He was successful to some large degree, of course. You've got people like Gavin Newsom, the nephew of Nancy Pelosi, and there's another one, of course. Again, either evil or incompetent, surely incompetent, or maybe both. California gives us people like Maxine Waters, and I could go on and on about her. Here's a woman who is encouraging her constituents to go after Trump supporters in the open marketplace. And it just goes on and on and on. And the more I've been thinking about this weekend, the more I keep going back to the words of Barack Obama, who said when he was running for the presidency that his intention was to fundamentally transform the United States. Now, what does that mean? What does America mean to you if you're an American? You know, when I was growing up, we had a rather common dream, I guess you could say, the American dream, where you would basically go out, you'd grow up, you'd get educated, you'd work hard, you'd be industrious, you'd obey the laws, you'd get some skills, and then you could begin to pursue what we call the American dream, whatever that might be. But that's not how these people think. I was also thinking about all the services this past weekend for Jimmy Carter. And I was telling people, don't believe all these accolades about Jimmy Carter. Not to get bogged down here, but I was raised in Georgia. I remember when Carter ran for governor of Georgia. We weren't impressed with him even then. And of course, it just was mind-blowing to us that Jimmy Carter would ever ascend to the presidency. We were watching videos of him back when I was a teenager. He'd be out in some Iowa cornfield shaking hands with a farmer saying, "Oh, I'm Jimmy Carter, I'm running for president." We were going, is this serious? This guy is running for the presidency? And of course he became president. And everybody's issuing all these glowing accolades about Jimmy Carter, what a great man he was. Well, a lot of people say he wasn't that much of a president, but he was a great man. He was just full of compassion. He cared about people. He built houses for people. And I've never bought into it at all, because I well remember a Jimmy Carter who would bend over backwards to accommodate every third world, banana republic, tin horn communist dictator. He loved people like this. Those were his people. And that is the complete antithesis of the American dream, if you ask me. What is the American dream historically? Well, I don't know how much tunnel vision I have, or how myopic I am, or how old-fashioned I am, or old school, but for me, generally speaking, it was those things I just mentioned. And you grow up and you apply yourself and you work hard and you save money, and maybe you can put a down payment on your own home one day and maybe get married and raise a family and have a house with a white picket fence out front. That's the American dream. That's what I've kind of always thought. I know that may be a little Pollyanna-ish, but that's not how people like Obama think. That's not how people like Jimmy Carter thought. That's not how the Clintons think. That's not how the Pelosi's and the Newsoms and the Schiffs and the Waters and the Karen Basses of the world think at all. Karen Bass, of course, made many, many trips to Cuba. She revered Fidel Castro. She's a communist. I mean, that's not hyperbole, folks. And she is the mayor of Los Angeles, California. And you may have seen the videos last week of a reporter, a bold reporter, asking her, what have you got to say about all these fires? Do you regret leaving the country and going to Ghana when the fires broke out? Do you regret being complicit in the sending of firefighting equipment to Ukraine? Do you realize this very morning, that the state of Oregon attempted to send firefighting equipment to California to help battle the fires, and they were turned away? Do you know why they were turned away? Because they didn't have the right, they weren't in compliance. This equipment was not in compliance with EPA mandates. I mean, California, the land of fruits and nuts, it's the land where up is down, down is up. Nothing makes sense. There is no common sense at all. What is going on? Is it something sinister? Folks, there is no doubt in my mind, there is no question in my mind that there are a lot of truly evil people in positions of power in the United States. Now, I want you to think about that for a moment. I'm not talking about people with whom we simply have mere philosophical differences. I'm talking about basic good versus evil. Back in the day, you could put a Democrat versus a Republican on a debate stage, a la JFK and Richard Nixon. These were two, relatively speaking, good men. Both men, it seemed, at least had this in common, that they loved their country. They wanted what was best for their country in 1959, 1960, when they take to the debate stage. I don't think too many Americans were doubting that these were two decent people running for the same office, who simply had mere philosophical or political differences, but it wasn't so much a battle of good versus evil, but today it is. When Trump runs against Harris, make no mistake, this is a battle of good versus evil. It's not merely a battle of philosophical differences or political differences. It's much more than that. This is good versus evil. Sheer evil, unhinged evil, and that's what's happening here in California, in my estimation. These are evil people who simply want the destruction of the America that we thought we knew, that we thought we had. This is not the America that they want. They are doing what Obama said he wanted to do, which is to fundamentally transform America. And they're doing it right now as I make this video in Southern California. Is it possible that there are people in political positions of power in California that, if you get right down to it, don't have that much of a problem with what's happening vis-a-vis these fires in Southern California. Is that possible? It sounds like I'm a lunatic for even asking the question, but folks, this is where we are. There are a lot of good people who have lost their property, their possessions, their homes, and it need not have happened in the first place, but it is happening. And I don't see a lot of tears being shed by the lefties. Do you? There's certainly no answers from Karen Bass. There's certainly no answers from Gavin Newsom, who said, well, let's not make this a political issue. No, let's make it a political issue, Governor. Is it possible that there is a sinister element to what is happening in California? Is it possible that this is by design? Is it possible that this is what the power brokers in California actually want? Is it possible that there are people in positions of power who have other plans for the property that, as I speak right now, is absolutely being destroyed, and the homeowners are being displaced? They'll never be able to return. They're going to have to move. Is it possible this happened in Appalachia recently with the hurricane? Is it possible that there are sinister, evil people who had other plans for that property and needed those people off? Am I a lunatic for even asking this? At some point, do you not have to? Is it possible that powerful, evil people have other plans for that land in California? I'm just asking the question. I mean, because I've struggled the last few days to try and make sense of this and simply ask why. It is not, I contend, an act of God, an act of nature. There may be a component of arson in this, but of course I have mentioned in a previous video the obvious forestry mismanagement, because these people are environmental wackos, as Rush Limbaugh called them. They wouldn't kill a bird or a bug or a bee or a rat. They would halt construction of a much needed road because they want to preserve the habitat of a wolf-tailed rat. That's a true story, by the way. That's not a joke. Where they prefer the animal kingdom to human beings, where they prefer the plant kingdom to human beings and our welfare. It's completely warped. It's completely upside down. It makes no sense. How do I support what I'm saying? Carry this to another extreme. Did you know, ladies and gentlemen, that zoning in many places in California for single-family homes is illegal? Did you know that? I just found this out over the weekend. I didn't know that. You know that little modest little 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a nice front yard and the white picket fence where John and Mary can get married and raise their 2 or 3 kids? You know, the old Leave It to Beaver days or what have you, Ward and June Cleaver. Those days are over in California. You can't do that anymore in many places. That is absolutely, unbelievably illegal now in some places in California. This article appeared not only in the LA Times, believe it or not, but on a website called the Center Square. And they write that California quietly doubled down on its termination of single-family zoning, ending loopholes that allowed municipalities to block an earlier state law designed to let owners build 4 homes on existing family lots. In other words, you can't just buy a piece of property in some places and just build a single-family home. Now, why is that? I'll tell you why that is. It's because of these leftists, these left-wingers who want to build mass housing for people, basically warring against the traditional idea of a single-family home and a sovereign, independent family ideally a man and a wife raising their children as they see fit in a peaceable neighborhood. They don't want that anymore. They want mass housing that's under the control of the government. This is unbelievable to me. I didn't even know this until this weekend. Here's one more for you. Did you know that in California, you cannot, if you decided to move to Los Angeles, California, or in that area of California, you decided, I'm going to take my family and I'm going to move to Southern California. I'm going to build a single family home, and I'm going to go and build me a gas station, and I'm going to run a gas station to make a living. Did you know you can't do that? Can't build a gas station. Cannot build a gas station in California. I bet you could figure out why. This is in the mirror.com, the Santa Monica, I believe it is. Let me scroll up here real quick. Bear with me. Yeah, this is from the Santa Monica Mirror. And this appeared, let me get my date here. This appeared today in the Santa Monica Mirror. Since Petaluma, California became the first city in the United States to prohibit new gas stations last year, a handful of local governments are taking similar steps, including now Los Angeles, potentially. The California cities of Rohnert Park and Sebastopol have passed similar policies, while Windsor, Cotati, and Santa Rosa all have legislation in development. These cities are all part of a group called the Safe City Movement, which is an acronym. Until last week, none of the member cities had a population over 200,000. Santa Rosa's population is just under 180. Now, however, Los Angeles could join the group as the campaign's first metropolis. LA City Council member Paul Koretz, who represents District 5, including Century City and Westwood, last week announced that his office is helping draft legislation that would ban the construction of new gas stations in Los Angeles. He said, quote, "We are ending oil drilling in Los Angeles. We are moving to all electric new construction, and we are building toward fossil fuel-free transportation. Our great and influential city, which grew up around the automobile, is the perfect place to figure out how to move off the gas-powered car," unquote. That's a LA City councilman. This, you might think, is a stuff of fantasy. This is true, folks. This is real. This is a war against fossil fuel, a war against you being able to self-determine the plight of your own life. If you want to go to Los Angeles and build a gas station, a small business to earn a living, you can't do it. You can't do it in LA, you can't do it in Petaluma, can't do it in a handful of other California cities, Santa Rosa. You can't have a gas station in the United States of America. Why? Because they are at war with fossil fuels, and they want everybody either driving an electric vehicle or using public transportation. Now, how does all of this tie in with these California fires? Is it possible, I come back to the question, that there is something sinister afoot? Is it possible that there are evil people in positions of power who don't want these people living out in Malibu and out in Palisades? They want that land used for something else. Folks, call me crazy. Call me a conspiracy theorist. I'll plead guilty to that. But I put nothing past these people. These people are absolutely evil. This is just simply mind-blowing to me what's happening. Now let me shift gears and offer perhaps a silver lining to this ominous cloud. And I'm going to tell you what I'm talking about. A lot of people who live particularly, I'm thinking, in the Palisades Park and Malibu areas of California that are being ravaged by these fires. A lot of these people are leftist, just like the political leadership. Not all, but a lot of them are. And a lot of these people work in the entertainment industry, in the Hollywood industry, in film and television and in production of some kind. But I am beginning to see examples of some of these people finally beginning to see the light, if you know what I'm saying. Finally beginning to understand that there is a political component to all of their misery, and that perhaps they've been supporting the wrong people and the wrong ideas. And perhaps some of these people are saying, you know what? Enough is enough. Last November, the left-wing Democrat loony district attorney for Los Angeles, whose name eludes me right now, was defeated in his re-election bid by a more centrist candidate. I can't remember if this man is Democrat or Republican. In any event, he displaced this other district attorney. This was a position once held by the man who, I was thinking about the O.J. murders, and his name escapes me, but whatever the case, a left-wing loony was turned out of office in the race for district attorney. That's the point. I believe that if Karen Bass were up for re-election right now, I think the odds are she might just lose. And of course she should. But I believe it's possible that there are people in California who are coming to their senses finally. I believe that Donald Trump made some inroads in this last election in California. You know, everybody's got a breaking point. Everybody's got a point where they may believe some wild theories or some wild ideas, but when it starts hitting you in the pocketbook, all of a sudden you get a dose of common sense. And these fires are hitting a lot of people. It doesn't matter if they're conservative or liberal or Republican or Democrat. The fire is a great equalizer. It's not asking your political affiliations or your philosophies. It's just wiping out houses and property. And if you can align these raging fires with the idea that they could be caused by these progressive leftist ideas, if you can put those two things together, then if you're one of these victims, you might be saying, okay, maybe we had the wrong idea. If you can conclude at least that the fires are caused because of the mismanagement of our forests and the mismanagement of our cities and poor planning, our refusal to even use fire breaks, our sending our firefighting equipment away to Ukraine, the political refusal to use firefighting resources in a responsible manner to prevent something like this from happening. When you understand, even if you're a leftist, that Gavin Newsom was causing water which could have been used to fight these fires, he was causing that water from Northern California to be diverted into the ocean to save a stupid fish called a smelt. When you consider these ideas that heretofore you supported, but now it's your house going up in flames, do you start scratching your head and saying, maybe I'm wrong about all this? What's the old phrase? Beauty for ashes. From ashes come beauty. Is it possible that an event like this could cause some people to come to their senses in California and start changing their minds for once? I saw this video this past week. It was just a picture, but it was a live picture. It was a film clip, basically, is what it was, of the Hollywood sign. And this wasn't made up. This wasn't a what do you call them, a GIF? It wasn't a meme. It was a real image. It wasn't made up. It was real. It was the Hollywood sign with flames coming out the top of it. And I thought to myself, could there be a more appropriate symbol for Hollywood? Hollywood on fire. As an industry, Hollywood has embraced leftism and liberalism and wokeism, and look at what it's got you. You are literally on fire. Could this be your wake-up call? Could this be what brings you to your senses? Could this be what causes you to finally say, well, maybe Obama's idea of transforming our country wasn't so great after all, because the result of leftist thinking is always destruction, carnage, mayhem, and death. Always. The political philosophies that Karen Bass holds on to gets people killed. Look at what happened to beautiful Cuba under the reign of the Castros. And those are her people. Those are her kind of people. That's her kind of philosophy. And here she is, the mayor of the second largest city in the United States. And the mayor of the third largest city is pretty much just like her, now that I think about it. And Eric Adams, the mayor of the first largest city, has already begun to see the light, at least in terms of illegal immigration and what it's doing to his city. And he's more aligning himself with the policies of Donald Trump now, even sitting down with Tom Homan saying, okay, let's work together to fix this. You know, if your house is burning down, if your property is on fire, at some point you got to do a little reassessing of things and ask yourself, okay, where did I go wrong here? What could I have done to prevent this? Maybe I shouldn't have left that toaster plugged in, or maybe I shouldn't have left that water running, or maybe I shouldn't have left my stovetop on with pots and pans on and left the house and gone on vacation. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. You think? If there's anything missing in America right now, maybe it's common sense and spine. And spine. It is time, and God help Donald Trump to do this, folks. God help Donald Trump to do this. It is time to punch the bully in the nose and say your day is over. And by bully, I mean these left-wing, leftist, communist ideologues who all they have are theories. They're kind of like tenured professors, academics, who have their theories perfected, but they don't have any real-world experience. They can tell you how to do all this stuff, but they don't know themselves. They got it all in a book. They got it all in their head, but they never get their hands dirty. And these politicians that cling to these leftist ideological positions that sound myopic and they sound grandiose, it really only leads to destruction. Castro was a great orator, and he was able to stir up the masses in Cuba prior to the revolution. But in reality, the things that he believed, the things he promoted, only led to death, destruction, and mayhem for his island. And they're still suffering from all of this all these years later. And Karen Bass has done her dead level best to turn Los Angeles and Southern California into Havana. And she's done a pretty good job at it, if you ask me. Of course, she's got a lot of political colleagues out there who agree with her. Gavin Newsom, Adam Schiff, Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi. All these leftists, they have more in common with Castro than they do with Trump. They have more in common with these leftists, these banana republic, tin-horn dictators, than they do with their own people. They latch on to and embrace these leftist policies which lead to nothing but destruction. Fossil fuels are not the enemy, by the way. I'm simply asking the question, folks, is something sinister afoot here? Can I offer proof that that is the case? No. But somebody maybe can. And of course, in time, maybe we'll find out the truth. But right now, what we need are some people in Southern California with some common sense and some spines to stand up and say, enough is enough. And maybe I was a leftist, maybe I was a left-wing Democrat liberal who supported Karen Bass, but I was wrong. And we have got to change course because, folks, how many more fires is it going to take? How many more of these disasters is it going to take before these people wake up? Leftist policies kill people. It's just that simple. I would love to hear back from you. Give me your comments down below if you would. Please like this video. I would appreciate that very much, and subscribe to the channel if you have not. Thank you all, those of you who have emailed me. Buy me a coffee down below. I really appreciate it. It helps to keep the channel going. I love hearing from you as well in your comments and your emails and what have you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Let's keep digging for answers and maybe we'll find some. This is Trailer Trash Tim. I'll see you soon.